The veil between worlds is very thin this time of year. And on All Hallows' Eve, when it is thinner still, many a soul's been tempted to twitch aside the curtain, hoping to catch a glimpse of the other side. And so it was that from the arthritic limbs of an aging oak, 2 young boys watched and waited for the cemetery's most celebrated visitor, known as the Lady in Black. Now and then unseen creatures scurried in the dead leaves below them, screeching anonymous accusations to the night. And as minutes stretched to small eternities, the boys began to wonder if what they had been told in hissing whispers were perhaps less than sacred truths. But at long last the church tower rang out, the first of 12 welcoming bells that legend said would signal her arrival, and the Lady in Black did not disappoint. Her annual procession, slow and solitary, was as inevitable as death itself. And as the boys watched her floating between the headstones in her long black gown, she looked like a captainless ship lost in a sea of fog. Just as they had been told, she held a flickering candle in one hand, and in the other a single red rose clutched close to her chest. It was said she had once been a beauty, and perhaps one could see hints of that former glory in the spectre that remained, but they were overpowered by lifeless eyes gazing out from a hollow face. Those eyes did not wander in search of her destination. They did not need to. The way was in her bones. The call of the 6th bell sailed through the air, and the boys held their breath in anticipation as the lady drifted nearer. Their position in the gnarled branches had been carefully chosen. They knew to which grave the woman's unalterable course was charted. And here they could see without fear of being seen. For all the locals knew of her yearly appearance, and the boys were not alone in awaiting her arrival. A young man stood beside the grave, a contradiction in appearances. His countenance was as graced by good looks as it was marred by a sorrowful, expectant expression. As he watched the lady coming toward him, her eyes stared straight ahead, devoid of recognition. With the sounding of the 12th and final bell, she knelt at the grave beside him, with tears falling down each cheek. "Don't cry, Helen," the man said. "Please don't cry." And he raised his hand to wipe away her tears, but it passed through her face as easily as a cloud of smoke. She laid the rose upon the sod, and with solemn slowness stood once more and turned back the way she had come. The man called out to her, tried to catch her hand, but he could no more reach her than the night can touch the day. And soon she disappeared into the fog for another year. "Oh, Helen, I hope someday your soul finds peace," he said, his eyes shining. "Mine has." And with that, the ghost of the young man faded back into his grave. In the ancient oak above, the boys waited until they were sure he was gone, and there was no fear of them being caught spying, before hurrying back to their mother's grave to tell her that indeed the Lady in Black had come. She was a little older, perhaps, than the other ghost children had told them, but surely it was her. "Well, of course it was," said she. "The lady will always come to visit, until at last she comes to stay." She kissed them both and tucked them back into their graves, and all through the night the ghost children lay wondering if they might see the lady again next Hallows' Eve, when the veil between worlds is thin, and many a soul's been tempted to catch a glimpse of the other side.